Who's ready to learn Power Pages? I am. So what we're going to do today is a little bit different. We're going to use what I'm now calling Friends of Buddy. We're going to bring in a special guest host, Haley, who is going to teach us everything we want to know about Power Pages. So give us an overview of what it is, what it's used for, some examples, and then help us build our first site end to end, right? So this is exciting. I feel like Power Pages is one of those topics that's been coming up a lot lately, right? We're seeing a lot of demand for it. I feel like a lot of people need to start learning it. So I had her come in to help me build this first video. And of course, after you get done watching it, if you're like, hey, I really want to learn more, I want to learn more with Haley, like we've got upcoming live Power Pages Jumpstart class that you can take, where she's going to go through not only all the core stuff, which we learned today, but then they're going to get into some of the pro code stuff, right? Because one of the things you'll find in Power Pages is it gets to pro code pretty quick, where you have to do Liquid and JavaScript and all these HTML things to really make the platform sing. But anyway, that's enough of my blah, blah, blah. Let's just switch over to Haley.
Hi. Today we're going to be building in Power Pages, and you can see this site here. This is my community event hub. And the idea behind this site is that my communities, people can come and add events for the community gardens or things that are going on in the community, and then they can see them on the website. So you can see here, if I go to my event calendar, I have an event on the 12th, which is my community pool kickoff event. And I can see that that's from 2:14 to 5 p.m. And I can also add events to this particular calendar. So I have this form here that asks some questions, and then the event gets added to the calendar. So before we get started building this website, I wanted to have a discussion about what Power Pages even is. So at its core, Power Pages is a website, but it has a database attached to it. And that database is Dataverse. There is no other alternative data source for Power Pages. It is Dataverse. So that's the first thing to know about Power Pages. Where we see Power Pages being used is primarily to expose your data in Dataverse to an external audience to gather data. It can be used for internal audiences as well. We see that less. We see Canvas apps more for internal audiences and Power Pages more for external audiences. But you can use, create an internal portal or internal Power Page for your internal people. But we primarily see it being used for external people. And you can see that this site that I've created here is pretty simple. You know, we're adding an event and we're viewing events, and there's some images and, you know, there's some shadows and there's some things going on. So we're going to look at how to create all of that. But we often get asked, you know, how can I look at what other people have done with Power Pages and what are some things that people have done? And the best resource for that is going to be at this website here. And this will be in the link below. And this website here shows all of these companies who have used Power Pages to enhance their business. And this is a Microsoft website. And so you can come to this page and you can look and you can say, you know, I want to look at what the San Francisco Police Department did using Power Pages. So then I can come and click that and we can see here, this one was this year, and the San Francisco Police Department, which upholds the law, and blah, 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 yep. So they used the Power Platform to create an app that helped officers more efficiently report the return of stolen cars. So they are using theirs probably internal. That's probably an internal portal. But there is a wealth of information on this website that you can come and look through. And even this, updating stolen vehicle records in 98% less time. That's amazing. So these stories are really good at helping you kind of see some of the ways that people in the community are using Power Pages. So what is Power Pages not? Power Pages is not just a simple WYSIWYG. It is a WYSIWYG, which is what you see is what you get. And that's more of like a drag and drop interface, which I'll show you here in a bit. But it's not going to be WordPress. It's not going to be those sites that are kind of more static, that don't have interaction. Power Pages is meant to have more of an interaction between your client or your user and the Power Page than just a static website. It can be used as a static website, but you're going to be paying licensing costs and other things for a pretty sophisticated website that you may not need all of the bells and whistles for. So I highly encourage you to come to this website and just take a look at what other people have done. I've had clients who have done things with Power Pages that I didn't even think were possible. I genuinely would not have known how to do what they were doing in Power Pages, and they did it. And so it's a really amazing product if you can kind of get in and start figuring it out, which is what we're going to do today. So how do you even get to Power Pages? Well, in true Microsoft form, there are multiple ways to do so. So I'm going to show you multiple ways to do so. All right, so if you have no knowledge of Microsoft whatsoever, you're not in the ecosystem at all, you can come to this web page here, which is also going to be in the link below, and you can come up here and do Start Free. This Start Free is going to walk you through setting up a trial for all of this Power Pages. I already have one though, so for me, I'm just going to click this sign in at the top button. Now on this page, this takes me directly to Power Pages development. If I am in the Microsoft ecosystem, so let me go to my portal.office.com. All right, so if you know this screen, you can get to it by coming to these dots up here, and we have Power Pages as well here. Both will take you to the same place. Just different ways of getting there depending on your knowledge and where you're coming from in the Microsoft ecosystem. All right, so we've landed on this homepage, and now we're going to kind of take a look of the lay of the land. So up here, we have describe the site you want and let AI make the first draft. So we could describe what we're trying to do, what we're trying to collect, what we're trying to gather, and let AI create our first draft. If you're brand new, this is a great way to start. It helps you kind of understand, and Copilot is getting better every day. And you can see there are some of these examples. So create a website to submit expense reports, build a site to track project progress. So you can use this. We aren't going to use it today, but you can. Our next option you can see down here is to start with a template. So Microsoft templates are pretty good, but they are not fully fleshed out. They are not fully workable. You have to go in and make sure things are working. Some of the CSS or the way that the site looks is a little bit wonky. So you have to be careful and don't think that you're just gonna spin up a template and be done. But they are very useful when you're learning and you're trying to understand. So what we are going to do today is we're going to start from blank. So you can see here, I've given my site a name. I'm going to call mine Community Event Hub. I've given it a web address, Community Events Hub number 3. I have already done number 2, so it needs to be number 3. And your language if you need to change the language. Currently, there's just English. I don't know why that's even an option, but it is what it is. Once you've done this, you go ahead and hit done. And then it's setting up your site. So back and behind the scenes, it's setting up all of the things that you need to be able to create your Power Page. And this can take some time. Sometimes I've had it take between 5 and 10 minutes. Depends. Sometimes it's very fast. Sometimes it'll be 2 minutes. Who knows? But I'll be back when it's done. All right, so we've landed in the Designer Studio, which you can see over here on the left-hand side. I have some navigations here. I have pages, I have styling, I have data, I have setup. And we have this new security panel, which thank goodness, because it's very helpful compared to what it was. Good job, Microsoft, on that one. And so we can see here we have our pages that they came through. I'm currently on the home page. I can see my name up here in the corner. When I hover over this, I can see that I can edit this site header. And I can see I can add components. This feels very SharePoint Online, if you're familiar with that, where, we click and add widgets. So if I call them a widget, just know that my SharePoint brain is mixing with my Power Pages brain. In Power Pages, they're called components, but I might slip up. But we can add text, we can add buttons, we can add images, we can add videos. This card gallery is new. It's in preview. It's kind of cool. We have a form, we have multi-step form, we have list, we have breadcrumbs, we have flex container, spacer, iframe, and Power BI. So we have quite a few things here to work with. Over here on the right-hand side, we have Copilot. And we are going to be using Copilot to help us build today because it speeds up our development. I'm going to start by, I just want to rename my site, right? I want my company name to say Community Events Hub. So I'm going to go ahead and hover over this site header and hit Edit Site Header. I'm going to change my company name to Community Events Hub. And if I wanted to, I could upload an image and replace this image for my company logo. I'm going to go ahead and move to the styling of this header. And you can see here that I have these colors. So by default, these colors they're what's default. But we can edit them to be your brand colors. And this is also part of this styling tab over here, which we'll get to in just a moment. We also have this layout, which you can see this is kind of a work in progress. There's nothing really happening besides being able to make it bigger or smaller in the Designer Studio. But more layout controls are coming soon. And that's a good point. Power Pages is really it's not in its infancy because it's an evolution of a couple of products, but it is really coming along a lot. There's a lot of features that are getting added pretty regularly. And so you'll notice that even this security popped up, right? This layout, more layout things are coming soon. So you'll see that kind of a lot throughout the Power Pages Designer Studio. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Over here on the right-hand side, this is the navigation of your Power Pages site. So right now we just have a home page. And you can see here, this main navigation has the home. So any pages that are listed under this main navigation are going to show up on this header. Let's go ahead and add a new page because I know that in my Community Events Hub, I need to add a page where people can give me an event, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add a page, and I want this page to be add event. And see this checkbox right here is whether or not it will show up under the main navigation. So I actually am going to leave that checked. And if I scroll down, you can see that I also have some layout options. So we can start from blank. You can have different layouts where these are all sections already created for you. And you can select whichever one you want. You can also add your own custom layouts. That's a little bit more advanced, so we're not going to get into that. But today we're just going to start with blank and click add.
Hey, just a reminder, if you're enjoying this, right, we've got a live upcoming training on Power Pages. Just check out the URL there at training.powerapps901.com. And you can take the Power Pages Jumpstart with Haley and Anthony, where they're going to build all the core stuff. They're going to talk about how Copilot interacts, and then they're even going to look at the pro code and the components that go with that. I know, sounds like super fun. All right, back over to her.
All right, so you can see my add event showed up under the main navigation here, and it also showed up in the header up here. So if I move it, I can click these three dots. Let's say I don't want it in the navigation anymore. I can move it down. So I can move to other pages. And you can see right here, it no longer appears there, right? I do want it there, so I'm going to go back to the three dots and click Move to Navigation. All right. Awesome. So now I want to create my homepage, right? And I had 3 images in the 3 sections. And so I can click here in this section. And I'm actually on the wrong page. I'm on the add event page. So I'm going to go back to the home and I'm going to click this in the middle here. And you can see we have add section. We have an add section down here. If I come and click inside of, well, I have to add a component first to show you that. So let's go ahead and I want to make this section 3 blocks. So for that, I'm going to click inside the section. I have the layout. And I can change it to 3 blocks. And you see how that added 3 different blocks there. Next, I can add this and click image. And now I can upload my images. I'm going to put that one there. Hit OK. I'm going to add another image. And I'm going to add another image. One more image. All right, so for this one, I need to add that other image. Let me go ahead and add the pool. Here, I'm going to click the 3 dots again. Select image. And I've already uploaded my images, so I'm just going to select it and hit OK. And now I have my 3 blocked images. So now I want the text underneath them. So now you see I have this little plus icon. So it's different than this plus icon where I'm adding a section. See how those change a little bit? Plus icon, plus icon. So this one adds a section, which is more about the layout of your page. and not the content of the page. Whereas this one is adding the components, which are the content of your page, the text, the image, the video, all of that stuff. So if we add text, and now I can just say community pool, or this one's the garden. So let's do community garden. I want it centered, so you can see here I have this bar that pops up, and I have this align. I can move it into the center. I'm going to want this to be a heading, so I'm going to change where it says paragraph to heading, and it makes it bigger. All right, so now because I'm lazy, I'm going to go ahead and click those 3 dots and say duplicate, and then I should be able to, maybe, some of these work and some of them don't. Drag this one. I want to drag you over here. There we go. So see, that was a little bit tricky. If I click inside of it, sometimes it thinks I'm trying to like edit it, but really I just want to click it and drag wherever I'm going. So I'm going to duplicate that one more time. Again, 3 dots, duplicate. Make sure that my cursor is like that, not with the cursor blinking with the text changing. And then I'm going to drag it over there. This one's going to be community parks. This one's going to be community pool. Awesome. So if I wanted to add some text about my community garden or my community pool, I'm going to add, again, click my component, the plus, and I'm going to go ahead and hit text. And I'm going to say, welcome to our community garden. And I'm not very good with words, so I'm going to have Copilot help me out a little bit. So if I click this Copilot here, I can do rewrite, and I mean, that's actually way better. Step into our thriving community and embrace the beauty of nature and our community garden. So here I can add it to my page. I can rewrite it. I can change the tone of it. I can change the length of it. I can go and change the prompt more with this here. I like this enough, so I'm going to go ahead and add it to the page, and I'm going to do the same thing for these ones. So let me add a text. Welcome to our community pool, Copilot. Rewrite. Dive into the refreshing oasis of our community pool. I like that. That's good too. And community parks. One more for good measure. That's cute. Experience the wonders of our community parks. So I went and I'd used Copilot to give me a little bit of a description for each one of those. And now I need to add the buttons that will take me to add an event, and I need to add a button that should take me to view the events. So down below here, I'm going to add a section, because if I tried to add a button in this section up here, my layout is my 3 blocks. But I want my buttons to be more centered, and I only have 2. So I really need a new section for that. So again, we're not going to click this one because that plus icon is the content. We're going to click this one because it's the section. And this time we just want 2 columns for our buttons. All right, so now we have our 2 column section. And we click button. So button is one of our components. I'm going to say add event. And you can link to a URL directly, but here I'm going to link to a page of mine, which is the add event page that we created. Now you can see that my button is up in the top left-hand corner, and it's not really where I want it placed. So if I select the button, I have the edit. Nope, wrong thing. This one. Nope, still wrong thing. This one. This one will take me to the middle. So that one takes me to the middle. I can also go to the style if I wanted to change the style of the button, which I'm going to show you where we can set these styles in just a moment. This one here is the style tab as well. So on our buttons, oftentimes they have shadows, they're bigger, they're smaller, they have rounded corners. So buttons can have so many properties to them, right? And back in old days of designing Power Pages and web development, these were really kind of complicated to do. So thankfully, Microsoft has created this. So if I want a shadow, all I have to do is drag. And if I want a border, all I have to do is drag. If I want a corner radius, which corner radius means I have rounded edges, all I have to do is drag. And you can see as I do that, my button kind of changes. The layout, these are CSS properties. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. You don't even have to know. you can just play with them and see what happens. Sometimes things change, sometimes things don't, but you can play around with these and see how it moves your button around. You can also go to W3 Schools, which this is where I go, and CSS. And you can see here, this is CSS stuff, right? Everything about CSS. So if I'm looking for display. So CSS display. So I'm going to go to this display property, and I can see here these values down here, property values. So you can see these match up with what Power Pages is giving me, right? Inline, block, flex. I don't have all of these available in Power Pages, but I have some of them. And so that is where I would go to kind of further educate myself on what the CSS properties are. We're going to leave it as it is right now, but I do want to make the button bigger and wider and height-wise. I want to make them bigger because they're kind of hard to see. So as I drag, same thing that I did for the shadow. Oof, I can make that really big really quickly on the height. And there we go. That looks decent enough. All right, so then we can move over to the typography where I can choose the font of my button. I can choose the weight of that. I have all of these properties available for my typography. I want to make this a little bit bigger. And that looks good. All right, and this flex, we don't need to do anything with for this particular tutorial, but if you're interested, go play with it. See what happens. All right, so I have my add event button. I have I've aligned it in the center and I've styled it. So again, because I'm lazy, I'm going to duplicate this and then I'm going to select it and drag it over here. So now I have my add event button. I'm going to hit edit, and this one is going to be view event. There's multiple view events. And I don't have a page right now, so I'm going to stick to the add event page. But I'm going to come up and create a view events page. So again, same thing we did for the add events page. We're going to hit add page. This is going to be view events. I want this in the navigation, start from blank. Awesome. So you can see I'm in a blank page again. So to view the events, that's going to be a list of items, right? People are going to submit things to us. And then that goes into a list of events. And so here I'm going to choose list. Now, the list has this preview of a new and improved version of the component. We're not going to use that today, but I encourage you to go test it out, see what it looks like, see how it's different from the traditional one. The table where we are going to store this is, we don't have one yet. Actually, I gotta back up a bit because I don't have anything to store my events, right? So I have my add event page, I have my view event page, but I'm gonna go ahead and go back to my home page and I'm going to edit the button to the view events. I'm gonna make sure that that goes to the view events page that I just created. So now I have my add event, I have my view events, and I'm going to go ahead and sync this. So in the top right hand corner, you have this sync button. In order for your changes to take effect and reflect on the web, you have to do the sync first. Then you're going to come and hit preview. If you want to view it on a mobile, you can. I'm going to view it on a desktop. And sometimes it takes a while for it to fully load because it's loading an entire website with all of your styles, everything in there. But that loaded pretty quickly, actually. So now you can see, here's my page. I have my community garden, my community pool, my community parks. I have my view events, my add events. If I click add event, you can see it takes me nowhere. Nothing's here. But up here, you can see that this is the add event. To go home on any Power Pages site, you can click this one, or you can click the name of the company, and it would go back to this page. I'm just going to test my view events. Great, I have my view events. So now I'm going to go back to Design Studio because I know that this is great. This works the way that I want it to. Now I need to start working on my add event page and my view events page. One thing I have noticed is, like, you can see here, right? You can see where it says Dolly 2-1. The first time I upload those images, it shows in the Designer Studio, but when I come back to the Designer Studio, it doesn't show. They still show up on the homepage of the website, but I'm not sure why it doesn't show again on this one. I'm going to go to the Add Events page, and here we are again. So same thing, right? We have our sections that we talked about, and we have our components that we talked about. And for somebody to add an event, I'm going to need a form. I need a form to gather data. So I'm going to go ahead and select, actually, you know what? I'm going to use Copilot this time. I could select form and build it myself. I could also come to this right-hand side, and I'm going to tell Copilot what I want. I'm going to say my site gathers community events. I need a form to get event data from users. So here I have my site gathers community events. I need a form to get event data from users. And let's see what it comes up with. So in the background, Copilot went to all of the tables that are in a Dataverse instance, and it was looking to see if there was something that already existed that would match my request. Now, that's what this is saying for choose an existing table. So if you already have a table and you're trying to build a form on that table, that's what this is. However, we have this or, where we can create a form with a new table. I know that my community events is not a Dataverse table already, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new form with a new table. Now in the background, Copilot went through, and you can see it gave me a form. So it gives me a form, and it's in steps. So it actually gave me what's called a multi-step form, not just a simple form. So here is this down here, which I can move around if it's in my way. And it can say, it's asking me to review what Copilot did. So here I have the event details. I have the event name, date, time, event location, event description. Okay, what's the next step? You can see it switched to the organizer information. It's pretty good. And the contact details. That's okay. I need a start and an end time though. So let me go ahead and I'm going to say trash this form, and I'm going to start again. And I'm going to say, all right, so this time I said I need a form that has a start and end time and gathers data for community events from users. Let's see what happens. Again, I don't want it to use an existing table, so I'm going to have it create it with a new table. Okay, so I have event details. Okay, my next step. Event date, start time, end time. Good. Although I don't really need an event date because my start time and my end time also has the event date. So I think that's okay. We can delete this field later. So let's go to the next step. Here's my venue information. Okay, next step. And the organizer information. That's pretty good. Gets the data that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and keep the form. I'm going to go ahead and sync this and show it to you on the website. I'm going to do a preview of the desktop. All right, so I synced and I previewed, and you can see here that this is my form, but it's telling me I don't have appropriate permissions. So the reason this is because Dataverse is a secure database, and Microsoft doesn't want you to just expose your data accidentally. So everything we do in Power Pages requires, data-wise, requires table permissions. So you can see here on our form, it says set the permission on this form so it can be seen and used by all of your visitors. So in order to see this on the website, I have to set a new permission. And so I can click this here, new permission, and it's telling me, it gives me a name to start off with, which you can use, that's fine. We're going to stick with global access for now. And in order for our users to be able to view the entries that have been in there, we have a read. We need them to be able to read the data from the database, right? So this is giving them permissions to read, update, and create. If you wanted to give additional permissions, you could. But for now, we're going to do read, update, and create. All right, so this roles. This is very important as well. We have to select which role this permission is assigned to. So if it's supposed to be anybody can see this data, you have this anonymous users role. If it's supposed to be somebody that's logged in before they can see that data, you're going to use the authenticated users role. And you can see I can select multiple, right? So if I'm an anonymous user or an authenticated user, then I could see it. For today, we're just going to stick with anonymous so that this is saying anybody in the world could come and add an event here. In the real world, you wouldn't want to do this. You would want to set it up so that there are permissions depending on who is accessing your site. But for today, we're going to stick with anonymous users. This is an important pop-up. So when you have the anonymous users, the data displayed in your site can be seen by anyone. So if that's not what you meant, fix it. But it is what I meant. So I'm going to save. All right, so now if I sync and if I come to my website and I refresh this, or you could do the preview, that's fine too. You can see that we now have our form. So I'm going to say Community Garden Event Kickoff. All right, so now I said, come join us for our annual Community Garden Kickoff event. Burgers and hot dogs will be provided. When I hit next, I'm going to get a date and time. We don't really need this event date. We're going to keep it for now. I'll show you how to get rid of it in just a moment. All right, so the start date, I'm going to say 6/12 at 4 p.m. End time 6/12 at 7 p.m. And I'm going to hit next. The location, the venue name is going to be the community garden, and the address. So I've just added some address details to our community garden. And the organizer, I'm the organizer, and you can email me if you want. And I'll provide a phone number. Submission successful. And you can see I can click add event and I can come right back and add another event if I wanted to. But now we have the problem of how do I see these events, right? I got nothing. I can add event. I can go to this view events page, but there's nothing there. So let's go do that. So we're back in Designer Studio and we are going to go to the view event. All right, so we're at the view events page and we're going to add a list to this because we want to see the entries, right? So our table, where is our table stored? So Copilot didn't tell us what table was created when that form was created, right? It didn't tell us where it's actually getting stored. Or if it did, I missed it. But where we can find that is in this data tab. So over here in our data tab, you see we have our Copilot community event form. I have one that was just created. So I'm going to go ahead. I know that there's a Copilot community event form. So back in my list component on my page, I'm going to select the list, click edit list. So my table is going to be Copilot and community event. The data views, I'm going to select the active one. These will come by default. You'll probably just want to stick with active for now, which is the top one. And it automatically gives you a list, which you can just keep that name the same. We're going to go ahead and hit done. And now this is our list component. So each component, we have this bar, and it's how we manipulate and change how the component looks or the data that's coming into the component. So you can see here, now I don't have just the edit list like I had before. I can add a filter to this. I can edit my views. I can set the permissions, which that's the one that we just did. And we have these three dots to same thing, duplicate like we've done before. So I'm going to go ahead and sync this and I'm going to come back to my site. All right, so I synced it. I'm going to refresh this. And now I'm going to go to my view event. And okay, so you can see that this is my one event, right? But the only thing you see is the name and the created on. So if I wanted to change that, well, actually I do want to change that. I want to make this a calendar. And so this part, to make this a calendar, we have to go back to Designer Studio and we click the list and we click the edit list. And on the left-hand side, we have some options. So we already did the setup and we're going to actually go to more options for this. So more options, and we're going to click Open Power Pages Management. This might look scary, but this is not scary for this class or for this tutorial. So this is our list in the back end of Power Pages. And all I have to do though is go to this calendar view right here. So you can see this is the name of my list. It's a list. I'm in the lists, but I have a calendar view and I can enable it. And then I can choose my start date and choose my end date. And so now you can see why I don't really need that first event date. I just need a start date and an end date because that's all the calendar asks for. The summary field name, I'm going to put as the event description, or actually, what was the name? I wanted to find event name. That's the one that I want. The description will be the event description. The organizer was me, so I want to find the organizer name. And the location, I want to be the venue. Now down here, I would leave these the same. So initial view is the month and a full calendar. Now we just have to click Save and Close. It takes us back to Designer Studio. We're going to click Done. And this still looks like a list. It doesn't look like a calendar, right? Well, I'm going to go ahead and sync it, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh. Maybe I'm going to close it and then do it in preview here. Go to my view events, and it's still a list. So let me double check that actually saves. So here we're going to go to Open Power Pages Management. More than likely you don't ever have to come here, but for this calendar view we do. So we're going to click the calendar view, and I want you to click Enabled and Save. Then you can come and do the start time, the end time, the summary, which I want to be the event name, the description, the organizer, and the location, which was the venue name. Now you can hit Save and Close, and Done, and sync. And let me preview this. There we go. So sometimes, I don't know why, but when you come into this portal management app, sometimes I would click Enabled and I would put all my details in here, and for some reason it would still show up as a list. I had to do this one about 3 times. I had to click Enabled, Save, then add these in, which is really annoying, and I don't know why, but it is what it is, and now it works. So now if I look at my page here, my view events, you can see my community event, Garden Kickoff, is right here. If I click it, I have this community event, Garden Kickoff, June 12th through 4 to 7 p.m. Now, you can also see that this comes with various ways that you can look at events. So you can change it to year, and you can see I have a 1 here, so I can know how many events are in each month. I have a week view, so I know that my week view is on Wednesday the 12th of the community garden event. But some of these you'll notice, like if I try and click this, I can't get more information about that. So typically I stick with the month view because that's what gives you the most information, being able to see the most information. This is a download button, so if you wanted to be able to download the calendar, you would click that button. And so now we have, if we go back to our home page, we have our community garden, community pool, community parks. We've added an event. We can view events. So let's go add one more and see what happens. All right, so here, this is gonna be the community park kickoff meeting or event. And we're gonna bring all the kids because we are gonna play. The date and time, I'm not even gonna fill this one out because it doesn't do anything. But this one I'm gonna put on the 20th at noon, and it will end the 20th at 1:30. The venue is gonna be community park. Here's the address. Next. The organizer information, still gonna be me, no thanks, and submission completed successfully. All right, so I told you that we could edit this form, and we are going to. So I'm going to click up on the form, so the multi-step form. We have 2 sections here. This part here pertains to the whole form, while this part here pertains to the steps in this form. So I want to go to step 2, and my event date, I just want to delete it. There we go. And now I'm going to sync, and I'm going to preview, and we'll say community pool end. So here, this is the community pool end date. We're going to come celebrate the end of summer. If I click next, my start date is going to be all the way in September, usually around Labor Day, which I never remember. I think it's the first week, but who knows. And hit next. Location, community pool, address, I'm still the organizer, and my phone number is still the same. All right, so if I go to my view events, now I want to go to next month, July, August, September. Here is my community pool end date. 7:11 p.m. I must not have put that in correctly. Now you have created a site that gathers data from people, adds events, and views events at the same time. You could view this just as a list if you wanted to. There's a lot of ways that you could view this, but I wanted to show it as a calendar and build that out. Now, let's say you didn't like this gray scheme that you have going on here. You wanted to change the colors. You easily can change the colors. So to change the colors, we're going to go to the styling tab. The styling tab up here, these are the current colors, but you can click this edit button. And if you know your hex code, you can just enter that in, or you can kind of play around and see what you can come up with. So I'm going to see if I can make it just kind of a bluish color. Yeah, I like that. Hit OK, and you can see that my header changed. I'm going to move down. Let's see, I kind of want another, maybe like a green. Let's see if I can find a green that I like. That one's okay. Oh, I don't want that. That is not what I want, because that green on that is bad. So you can see that these colors right here actually correspond to your site. So if I change this one, that's the text. If I change that one, this is the background. And these colors, I want to go back to like a darker color for the text. Yeah. So let's see if I just add a more color. Let's add a green in there. All right. So then if you scroll down, you can see we have our title, we have heading, we have our buttons. So if you wanted to change any of the titles, font or the weight or the size, this is where you would do that. You just come and you change this to whatever it's supposed to be. There is no way to just kind of set that across the site unless you upload your own CSS. Down here we have our buttons. So I primarily wanted to change my button. So we have two types of buttons. We have a primary and a secondary. And you can see when I hover over the primary, it kind of changes a little bit darker. And if I hover over the secondary, it inverts and switch colors. So if you wanted to switch your button colors, you would just click this button and select a color that you want. And then if I hover over it, it changes to that. So this right here is my on hover style. So if I wanted to change this to actually be the green, but the font be the dark, now you can see that just that font changes. Same thing with the secondary. So I can change however I want this to look. I can change it to here. I can change it to a blue outline. It's kind of hard to see. Change that back. But maybe I just want it to fill and change to that color. Yeah, I like that. That looks okay. It's kind of hard to see white on green, but you get the idea. You can play around with this and change it however you want. Same thing with links. Now, one word of warning. I do this all the time. I come in here and I change all this stuff, and then I hit sync and I go and look at my website and it didn't work. And that's because for some reason I have to save this, but this is the only thing I really had to save, right? In the rest of all of our development, we didn't save anything. It was continually saving. But for the colors, you have to hit that save, and then you can sync and preview. All right, so if I go back, you can see, oh, that's because I have a border on that button. So if I didn't want that, I could go take off the border. But at the end of the day, we did make a site that has some images, gives us some information, navigates us around the site, gives users a chance to give us data, and a way to view that data. All right, thanks for building with me today in Power Pages. It was a lot of fun. We made a really simple site to gather some data and display that data, but there's a lot more that you can do. So come and join me in building, because I really enjoy it. All right, so thanks for joining me today.
Whew, I don't know about you, but that was a lot to learn, right? Power Pages, there's a lot going on here. We really enjoy the platform. We're seeing a lot of customer demand for this. So I think those of us who grew up in the Power App space like me, right, like this is one of those next evolutions for us where we start to realize that, hey, sometimes we'd be better off building it as a site instead of as an app. So if you have questions, comments, leave them below. Hit the like and subscribe button while you're there as well. But, we're really hoping that you're enjoying this. And if you want to see more of this, you've got to tell me, right? And how do you feel about Haley? Like, do you want us to have Haley on the channel more? Maybe have her do some of her Dataverse or Power Pages stuff or model-driven apps. Like, she does a lot of really cool things. And I'm thinking about having her on more. So what do you think about that idea? All right. And with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day.